Okay, so now we're back at the course screen, and I'm going to go into the last, well, three more screens. We're going to spend some time on this one over here because it's a little more deep. But financial information, billing information, and additional information. So I'm going to go ahead and click into financial information. And this is a pretty simple screen. What we're doing here is we're talking about the funding sources for the course. And right now, by default, you may want to get some additional counsel on this, but past practice has been that we generally say not VITEA funding, and that the census, the way we account for the class is weekly, and that the disability status is that it's not a special class unless you know you are dealing with a class that is designed for folks with special needs. And then this is a replica field that you could just ignore. It's also listed on another screen that we're going to be looking at. The reason why I say there's a couple things to think about when you're dealing with course. The fundamental question that you're going to be faced when you're entering data fields on a course is, this will affect every possible section of a course. So as you come to know your role, and if you're coming from a position of scheduling or what have you, you're going to know that we often, we account for student attendance either on a weekly census or a daily census, depending on the type of course it is. By default, because most of our courses are offered on the semester basis, the weekly formula for capturing attendance is what is typically in place. So when we're programming the course screen, when we have a value that we want to populate that might vary section by section, we want to select the thing that's going to be the most common, and that's going to be weekly in this case. And we don't necessarily have a point of information from the curriculum process to know what this might be. Same thing applies for VITEA funding. Nothing in the curriculum process tells us directly what the funding source is for the course. That may be an area for process improvement, and I would suggest talking with Brian Sanders and the deans to see, is there a way we can improve this? So if we can, at the course level, make this accurate in the event that it is a VITEA funded course, or an economic development funded course, or 40%, this is all information that flies over our heads, but may enable the institution to be more accurate in its data management. I don't have an answer for you on that, but it's worth a question. And then disability class, that I would talk to Brian about, do some research at the state. What are the parameters for disability class? Again, an opportunity for process improvement. I'm going to save out of the CFINE financial, and then we're going to move here into billing information. So think of the billing screen as what are students charged to take this course and how are they charged. So the billing method, we're going to say, is based on the term. We see our other options. From tables. We don't need it from the section information. This is just a value I was taught. I can't necessarily explain why that matters, but this is what I was taught to do by a specialist at Modesto. And the billing period is term, meaning that we're billing, the students are getting charged for the term of the course, as opposed to for the reporting term. So just remember TT and then periodic billing, no. Think of periodic billing. Are they going to get billed every month? No, they're just going to get billed once for that course. Billing credits should be null, meaning there should be no numbers or values in this field because that can screw up things downriver. Sometimes when you use the course copy feature, which is a feature that allows you to copy a course record from a previous version of a course record, this value populates with the unit value of the course. So you just want to make sure this is empty when you go to touch the course record. Materials fees. We are in a state of flux with materials fees at Columbia College, meaning that, and materials fees being the fees that students are charged for materials that are used in the course, that they're used to help their learning in the course. What Modesto did was store the fee information at the course level, and as opposed to putting it the sections. There was a time when this campus believed that it was better to store it at the section level, which ended up causing more problems than it was worth. If you're going to add a materials fee to the course, you're going to want to put it at the course level, and you're going to have to surf around to figure out what the materials, what the accounts receivable, the AR code is. Here's where you would put the amount of the materials fees indicated on the forms prepared by the faculty member and approved by the committee. and then you're going to select the calc type as fixed. And that's all you're going to do for that. But let's just see what a biology materials fee might be. So I'm going to see, since we're in the course of biology, I'm going to say CB ... and see if there's what options come up. Basketball clinic fee, BOG, motorcycle, biology materials fee. That is what I would select for this fee. But I'm not going to do that since there's no materials fee for this course. So that wraps up that screen. Nice to know that one's not very dense. And we're going to say update. And then I'm going to go in here to ACOI. This is the additional information screen. ACOI, additional course information, shows the title, previews all this as it does on every subscreen, of course. This is the course purpose. This field is interesting because the state's no longer looking at all of these A through J values that you see here, or A through, I guess, L. They are looking, they've simplified it into 2 tracks, but what you need to know is that takes place at the district level. Shauna Dean might have more comment on that than I do at this time, but selection of these values is going to largely be for credit courses. It's going to be between A and career technical education, and liberal arts and sciences and career technical education. These, I believe, are for the non-credit courses that are not credit bearing. And then workforce prep enhanced funding. These I've never touched in my entire career. I may be misguided in not doing that, but generally I find I can tag A or I, depending on whether it's a CTE course or a liberal arts and science course. There's that. This is the articulation number and the articulation sequence. These are the cells that hold what used to be the CAN elements for the state, and that was CB14 and CB15. We are no longer maintaining this data. It may be that they are using it for CID. I would consult with Melissa Raby to confirm or whether or not these values, if we're locally populating with CID information. Shauna may have information on whether or not we can or should, but I have not checked into that within the last 6 to 8 months. So there may be some movement in that area, but nothing that I'm definitively aware of at this time. This is the transfer status for the course, meaning does it transfer to both CSU and UC, transfer to CSU only, or is it not transferable? And this, my friends, is the unique identifier that's given by the Chancellor's Office. This tiny little cell right here has so much importance because it's only through this value being populated and not null, and being populated accurately with the other codes that we put in and get approval for at the State Chancellor's Office, that we can collect apportionment or funds for successfully offering this section. So this field is very valuable to what they're doing at the division level when scheduling sections. If you have not updated this appropriately based upon what's been approved at the Chancellor's Office, you're going to get errors and you're going to have people worried because they're reading the section calculation report and they're getting an alert of exempt. So this is probably why. Program applicable is another Chancellor's Office value, and that is the, CB24, which distinguishes whether a course is a part of a degree, certificate, or skills attainment, or whether it's what's known as a standalone course. The college in general, standalone meaning it's not attached to any degree or certificate, so it's sort of standing alone. It has no other purpose than to just be itself. It's not leading students to a larger educational goal. Standalone courses, in general, are not looked upon extremely favorably unless they're performing a very specific function. There are some legitimate standalone courses, but it's not something that if we had more standalone courses than we had program applicable courses, we would have some problems. Then we get here into equate codes. Equate codes are what establish relationships between this version of a course and the version of the course that came before it. Or you can use equates to indicate this biology course is actually equivalent to this, and nursing is a bad example, or this nursing course. These two courses are identified to be equivalent to one another. And those you actually have to build in the EQCD screen. So if you're wondering how to build an equate, You can do that in EQCD. And this is just the comments field. Historically at Modesto, we used this to populate requisite information, but then Datatel made some improvements to its requisite interface for advisories, rendering need for this null and void. So in some cases, SBS, that's Susan Vector Slate, my predecessor, she would put notes here and it wasn't visible to others. So that wraps up the ACOI screen hastily.